make a list of what you want. And if the wants outweigh where you are right now, then go after it. Because as in this business, you have the ability to change places, change localities, change geography, and the tools transmit to the new place.
Welcome back to Life at 10 Tenths, where we inspire you to live at the pinnacle of your ability and purpose. I am joined by Matt Benelli today and a very special guest, long-term friend, Roger Gantz. Roger, good morning, sir.
Good morning. Thank you.
I am so excited to have you with us today. You are somebody I've wanted to have on the podcast for a long time. And you have an incredible journey that we're going to kind of go through a timeline of a journey today, because we have coached for a very long time together. I threw the year at you when we first started this, and you almost fell over. But let me do a quick introduction so people know who you are and where you're coming from. So we got Roger Gantz from Hamilton, Montana. When we first started coaching, he was in Portland, Oregon, but currently in Hamilton, Montana. You are with Windermere, and we have been on this journey of Portland to Montana in search of an amazing life for your family. And I'm excited to go down that path today. So, sir, are you ready to jump in?
Yeah, thank you. I'm very excited. This is fun.
Well, I want to go back to like how we kind of got started talking about doing this podcast today, because we were talking about, the journey that people go through, not only in building a business up, but then you made a decision back in about 2014 to say, yeah, this is a great life that I've started here in Portland, and we're making good money and my business is rolling in this direction, to all of a sudden saying, I want to pick up and move all of this, leave all this behind and go move to Montana with my family, with this dream of hunting and fishing and being in the snow. And you gave it all to me at that moment in time. And I want to start off with one, what made you be in that place of having an established business that we're going to talk about here in a second, and saying, I want to reestablish myself somewhere else? Because the rebuild for a lot of people is the scariest thing.
Oh yeah, that was a major part of it. But the impetus and the want to do something different. Funny story. Okay. So all this happened basically because we moved into a really cool neighborhood in Portland, and we found this house. We just kind of stumbled into this house. We really wanted another house, but we didn't get it. Multiple offer situation. And then this other house appeared, and it turned out to be the best house. I think it's still our favorite house. If you talk to my wife, Debbie, we'd probably both say, oh, that's our favorite house. Young neighborhood, people moving in, great school, innovative, principal at the local grade school. And then all of a sudden, in their infinite wisdom, the Portland School District decided to break everything up and change things around and consolidate schools. And the reason why I am in Montana is because the kids' school that they were going to go to was right across the street from a pornography shop.
Oh, jeez.
And we just went, whoa, wait a minute. Okay, we're forward-thinking people. Is this okay? Is this okay? And then there was a bunch of other things that were going around that school. We just went, oh my God, okay, this isn't going to work out. So we made a decision, and it was a hard decision because we love that neighborhood, we love that house, to make a move. And then we decided, well, if we're going to pack everything up and go someplace, is there someplace else we want to move besides Portland? So that's kind of how we got the ball rolling.
Absolutely incredible. It's funny that you weren't like, let's just move, to the next town over, or, maybe the next, keep my database. Like, let's go big here, which we're going to get to that. So let's get started here. And maybe Matt has yeah, look like you have a question, Matt.
I mean, I do. I mean, so you're thinking of this, right? And I want to know, like, what year is this and where is your business at? And because now you're thinking, because the simple answer is, hey, let's just move to another neighborhood that's in the right school district. And that's what most people would do as a reasonable solution to this challenge that you have, right?
Happens every day. Happens every
Yeah,
day.
absolutely. So tell us a little bit about like where you guys were as a family, and kind of what your thoughts were in terms of the risk of then thinking bigger to like, hey, let's go to another state.
The big thinking part in our family comes from Debbie. She is gregarious, outgoing, wants to do things. And so she was the inspiration to kind of think outside the box. She has family in New York, and we actually thought about, maybe even relocating to New York. But where we were at the time, Matt, to answer your question, it was just after or not just, it was a couple of years after the recession. And so everything kind of got reset during that time. We stayed in Portland specifically because we could both still work. So real estate kept going. And she had a really good job. And then our kids were tiny. They were, I think at the time we were sort of thinking about moving. They were, I don't know, 2 and 4. So from that aspect, it was a really good time to make a move because they hadn't been like completely socialized yet into a school and friends system. They had, it was still pretty young. And then as a business, I was coming out of the recession. I was really lucky during that time because a guy in the office and I worked for a bunch of investors that were buying all these, basically unwinding all of these groups of mortgages and getting these properties. And there'd be 3 or 4 in a bundle in Portland, and he would ask us to analyze them. So I was constantly doing all these real estate reviews and analyses. And so I was really confident. I had, done a ton of repetition during the recession. I was really confident in my abilities. And so my business was on the ascendancy, but it wasn't quite there yet. And so that was sort of the milieu that we were in. And then the happening of the school change kind of put everything into flux.
I can't imagine. I would imagine if that was Sarah and I in that same situation, kind of going like, we need to look at maybe some other options around us. Like, let's take a look and see what's outside the box here a little bit.
Well, how many years have you been in real estate at that point? Like how, I mean, you said you were like on the up, but so you'd been in the business for over 10 years. Like even though maybe you were looking to grow, like you're established.
Yeah, established in a sense, but we'll probably get into it a bit. But I hadn't, found a groove, and those first few years of business were transitions out of another life. I was involved in soccer a lot, and there was a lot of like back and forth. So I was licensed for since 2002, but I really didn't start, digging into it until probably, and Debbie and I got married, it was 2006. So about 2004, 2005, I was starting to go, oh, okay, now I have to do this. And it's like a thing. I'm starting a life here. So yeah, 2002, but it didn't really get going until 2004, 2005.
So if anybody wants an understanding of how big soccer is in Roger's life, if you go Google Roger Gantz in Realtor, it actually shows this picture of him and his wife, and it says soccer player above it as your title. I laughed this morning when I saw it.
I have
nothing
to do with Wikipedia. I don't know where that page came from. I have no idea. It just popped up. I literally have no idea. But yeah, that was my.
But soccer is a huge part of your life. So like, I mean, to say that like I had some other stuff, like that was an overwhelming like thing that we did through coaching a lot, was balancing this soccer world with your real estate world.
Yeah. It was a tough transition because that was my life till I was 30. And so fortunately my dad was a developer builder. My mom became a realtor. So I had kind of a sense of how things were, and I knew the terms, and I'd been involved, built houses. So it was an easier transition that way, but mentally going from soccer to something completely different was probably the biggest hurdle that I went through in my real estate business.
So let's go back to a little bit of a timeline here so we can kind of start moving in the direction to this place of you leaving Portland. So we met back in 2012 is when we kind of connected up, and you're like, I want you to be my coach. You'd done about a $4 million in volume in 2011. And you basically came in going, okay, like I've got goals. I've got things I want to hit. I don't need to be the plaque on the wall with being the number one in the office, but there are some things I want to accomplish. And I'm just want to see if you can share a little bit about that kind of internal moment at the very beginning. Cause a lot of people, I think when hiring a coach, they battle a lot of it about what am I doing? What am I getting myself into? What does this mean? What is this really all going to lead me to? And, this is where you kind of jumped into my world. What was going through your mind of saying, I want to coach?
Well, part of that actually came from your dad, Garrett. Your dad was pretty influential because I'd never heard anything like the things he was talking about before. No one had brought that sort of stuff up, and it was also tied to, hey, it's okay to make a lot of money. It's not a bad thing. It was always sort of like this. Oh yeah, I want to do well, but I don't want to be too, ostentatious about it. I don't want to be way out there. I just want to, have my life and make. And your dad was like, Roger, it's okay. You can make money. This is a great thing. You're in a great business to do it. So that kind of turned a wheel like, oh, okay, well, there's an ability to do this. And I wanted to investigate it a little bit more. So your dad did that. And then, the company that I was with, the Windermere company I was with, they had brought in Larry Kendall. So I started getting all of this like information that I'd never heard before. Like, oh, wow, you can do this sort of predictably and you can, make a good living. And so I was really interested in like taking that to the next level. And of course, my soccer background, I'm pretty competitive. I like to achieve goals. And so you guys provided this ladder, this sort of pathway to do it. And coaching was, the necessary sort of like grease and oil and water for that project, because you need to be, I've been coached my whole life. Why wouldn't I have a coach for business? And it just kind of made a lot of sense.
Most of your business, where does it come from? I mean, you've always been, as far as I've known you and what we've worked on, a pretty social guy. Where does most of your opportunities for your business come from?
Just people that I know and bump into. Your dad said contact sport. You said contact sport. So that's just something I do naturally. So I'm out always just talking to people. And that's on the transition to Montana. Windermere has a relocation department. And that was also part of, not an integral part, but it certainly helped because I was able to get, I knew the relo people in Oregon, and they talked to the relo people in Washington, where the Rocky Mountain referrals come from. And so just mainly from people that I know, but there was also a little bit of from the mothership.
And so when I look at like your business here, so we start in 2012 and you start using, the systems, working with your people, working with your relationships, building this incredible, you start building this amazing business. And that's what I started watching this thing grow. And you started to hit some milestones for yourself as you started kind of like, watching this thing come to life. And I'm hoping you can share a little bit of that, because it's going to lead into you having this place of all of a sudden making this big decision to make the move.
To be honest with you, there was I don't know if it was an overt incentive, but every year at the Windermere Johnson office, these people would leave the office, go away, and they would come back about 2 or 3 hours later, a little bit tipsy, like they'd had a little bit of fun and looked like they had a good time. They're sort of dressed up. And I was like, oh, what's going on? And the guy that I worked with during the recession, Dennis, said, Dennis, what's going on? And he says, oh, that's the top 10% luncheon. And I was like, top 10%? He goes, yeah, the whole company gets together. All the people that met the top 10% for production meet in January and have a nice lunch and drink some champagne. I was like, oh, wow, okay. And that kind of like stewed around for a bit. And then I think it was around the same time you and I started talking, and I wanted to go to that lunch just because I just wanted to go to it. I just wanted to be at that level. And I got really focused and really pointed towards that. And that's when things started to get to a level where you go, oh, maybe we can move. We can do something different. We have enough of a war chest to make this happen.
So did you get to the next luncheon then?
I did. Now that I'm talking,
So it became a normal thing.
Huh?
So it became a normal thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
So in 2012, you basically go from, hey, I'm doing 4 million, which, you're making some money there. You're not at the luncheon though, to now you're doing a lot more. You hire a coach. I assume, just get really adamant about doing your systems. You get to the 10%. So then what did that look like? Because the school thing happens, right? Which I assume is pretty short after this. And then it's like, now you're top 10%, your relationships are really working for you. And you're like, yeah, I'm going to now just get rid of all that.
Well, yes, that sounds like, wow, that's really stupid, Roger. But simmering in the background in my head for a long time, back to the soccer, I could never. So my parents did a lot of really cool things when I was younger. When I was in high school, they would go on these trips and they would go fishing in different places. And they would come home and they'd always talk about these trips. And I could never go because I was always playing soccer and I was always traveling the game. So, in the background, and then my dad was in Alaska for a long time. So I heard all these stories about Alaska, going fishing and hunting in Alaska. So unconsciously, consciously in the background, all that's going on. And then Debbie's parents moved here where we are right now in 2006. So we were visiting here. We were going back and forth for holidays and visiting here. And I remember the day I was sitting in a parking lot at this little greasy spoon in town going, I want to move here. I remember that clear as day. So that's simmering in the background, Matt. And then, focusing on business in Portland, doing better, doing well, getting into that luncheon, blah, blah, blah. The school thing happens. And then Debbie says, oh, we got to move. And so I just went, oh, okay. I have an idea.
I've been holding on this for many years. Now that you say it, it's like, I have an idea.
Yeah.
Well, I remember very distinctly those coaching calls back in those moments, because I remember you getting on the phone with me going, can I rebuild a business in Montana? Like, can I get from where I'm at right now? And I remember you're pretty direct, Roger. I remember you kind of going like, you've got to help me get here. Like, because I think you also had a lot of anxiety at the time. You like, if making this move, well, anybody would.
Oh, totally.
Family. Garrett, when is this? Like, how did you react to that? So you've been coaching Roger now for how long have you been coaching him? And then he all of a sudden comes like, you've helped me get successful. I now want to go replicate this somewhere else. Like, what goes through your head, Garrett, as his coach at that point?
Yeah, so this has been fun getting ready for this actual interview, because I have every coaching call documented from Roger from 2012 really up until today. And it was right around late 2013. These things started kind of coming around, and maybe it was middle of 2013. These conversations started happening, and I was a lot younger back then too, and my brain was going like, "What do you like?" Okay, I understand you have this love for Montana, and I'm here to support you as your coach. And a lot of this stuff is stuff you keep on the inside of your brain as a coach. You don't say it out. And I just kept saying like, okay, like here's this guy. He's got this incredible machine of a business running here in Portland, and he's going to leave it all behind and go start fresh in a brand new area that he knows very few people. And I'm a big believer in mindset and self-talk. And I can make my reality your reality if not careful. I can also fabricate a reality a little bit in my mind to give to you to be like, we're going to do this. We're going to, and the interesting thing, Rogers, I knew how to get there, but I also remember saying to you, like, if you're going to do this, like you're going to hit the ground up there, and you need to go in all in, no excuses. You've got a list of activities that I'm going to have you do. And I don't want to hear, I didn't have time. I'm like, all you have is time, dude.
Yeah, literally. I had a lot of time. I had a really good life for the first 2 or 3 years here.
And what's interesting, going back to my notes, I have lots of notes in here of like, dude, you need to ride his ass. He is not doing what he should be doing if he's going to turn this business on right now. Like, I have it written in my notes.
You were always, for that first year and a half, Garrett, you were always going to lose, because I just got here, and rivers and fishing and hiking. It was just, yeah. So that
And then,
first
and
year
then
and a
you'd be
half.
like, why don't I have the business that I want right now? I'm like, dude, let me go back. Like, I'll tell you why. Like,
yeah, no, it was, just looking back on it, it seems totally illogical. It seems strange, but I remember, I can't remember, as you or your dad started talking about vision boards and that sort of thing. And I'd never heard anything like that before. So I started dipping into this new sort of way of thinking, like you're talking about mindset. And when we were here, I took one of the local rags and there was an ad for a Windermere office. And I was like, oh, wow, how cool is that? If I ever were able to move here, there's a Windermere office and how easy that transition would be. And there was a picture of Bob Pauley, the guy that I work with, and his little ad. And I put that on above my desk at the Portland office. And it was just sitting there. Bob was always looking at me and I was always looking at Bob. And I was like, one day, I'm going to do that. And so that sort of thing you introduced me to is like, okay, you have all these, these hurdles, but ultimately you have to have some sort of mindset. You have to have some sort of vision about doing it. You have to see it in your head that, yeah, it could work. It could happen. It was just figuring out the bits and pieces of how to make it happen. That's where you were really helpful.
well, so then this leads us to March 11th, 2014. You've made this trend. You're going to make this move. You got a house now in Montana that's being built out. You literally, like, my notes are getting ready to move out of the house. And I have a lot of anxiety starting to build around this. And this was funny because you brought this up to me a couple weeks ago about this specific moment in time that you remember. And I was like, I wonder if I have the notes on it. And I do. I have all the notes. I have literally a Benjamin Franklin thing here that says reasons to move on one side and worst case scenario on the other side. So let me read these to you really quick because this is directly from 2014, March 11th.
This is
Reasons
my life.
to move. This is literally, Roger did not know I had these notes.
Yes.
Reasons to move: a wish for a better life for my children, the Montana experience, fun life, slower pace, quality of life. That was his reasons to pick up and get out of Portland and make this new life. Worst case scenario: disappointment on my kids' faces. That's
a tough
totally
one to
understand
battle.
Yeah. Oh, that's just right ahead of the look on your wife's face.
Oh, the disappointment on kids' faces, no friends, don't like the schools, could not make money, and picked the wrong neighborhood. This was your list. And I remember when you brought this up that I had said this to you, which was like, are you okay? And I said, I think, do you really think you're not going to make any money? Do you really think that this is going to be? And you were like, oh my gosh, I got to go. Like we're going.
Yeah. The data prior to the move was totally contradictory to that list, the last list you just wrote of all the fears. And it's just the power of your brain going, oh, this is uncomfortable. Don't do this. Don't do this. Don't do this. But independent of all the data before that said it would be otherwise, I was diving into this fear part of my brain, and you help coax that, or not coax it out. You help set that off to the side and saying, realizing it probably wasn't real, and to go ahead and jump into it. And all those things on the positive side all happened. They were great.
So think about, like, in our life, Matt, like the people that we coach, the people that we get to go around as we watch them grow. How many people stop because of this? What if the worst case scenarios actually were to play out and actually were to happen? And they never get to see Montana. They never get to see that life because those things become so overwhelming that they just go, you know what? Safety is here. I'm just going to stay here. I've got a good job. My wife's got a job. We're good. The kids, it's not, I mean, there's a porn store across the street from my kid's school, but we can get past that. Like, whatever it might be.
Take the kids to
Yeah.
school.
There's a lot of people that stops them, that freezes them in their tracks. And I think it's so cool that we were able to document it, put it down, and have a discussion about it and be like, are you ready to go? And you were like, we're out of here. And it was very short after that, you were in Montana.
Yeah, no, it was 3 months after that, 4 months after that, we were like driving down the road like Beverly Hillbillies with everything in tow, uh, heading east. I remember that day vividly.
What's so cool about it, Roger, is because Garrett, you're right. A lot of people, whether consciously or non-consciously, battle this a little bit, and you know, we always talk realtors. You gotta love where you live and all this stuff. And I think there's some realtors that like they like doing business where they are, but they don't like that's not where they really want to live, and they're fearful of moving because, well, my business is here. But Roger, you put on your vision board like that's such a cool like, hey, I'm gonna work here. I'm gonna be successful there. So you are preparing your mind before you even made the official decision to make the move. And I think that's a key factor that a lot of people don't do. They'll think about it, they'll quote dream about it, but they don't actually take the daily habit of putting it somewhere where they can see it. Because when we moved to Charleston, we faced a similar thing. We didn't have kids yet, so that was a little bit easier for us to make the decision. But it was like, hey, I'm going to leave real estate where I know people, where I'm managing people, and I'm sure Garrett, you probably pulled some of the tricks you used with Roger because it was a few years later that I did my move when
I
you were
just help you
coaching
guys
me.
find clarity. That's all I do. I just help you guys find clarity and make you go, all right, I'm doing the right thing. Like,
And I have the notes on those sessions too, by the way, when you were coaching me on that. And I think it's and obviously, Roger, now you are successful where you are, and I want to get into talking about the transition and how you made those years work, and I'm sure there was a lot of conversations with Debbie on like how are we going to make this work? How are we going to make sure that there's cash flow working? And so you're in Montana now, right? Like, well, go back, not like now, but 2014, end of 2014, and now you're facing building a real estate business that's based completely on relationships because that's how you know how to do it. So where do you start? Like, how did you get things going?
So I have a really good partner in crime. Debbie is like, none of this would have happened the way it happened were it not for her, because she is the catalyst, she is the thinker, she is the planner in our relationship. And so couple of things happened. The two kind of big things is that we agreed that I would go back and forth to Portland for a while. So I had my Oregon and Washington license. So I kept my business going. I hired somebody to help me with that business, and I with the vision to keep it going for a certain amount of time. And then Debbie, bless her heart, she's in marketing and she's excellent and she's really good. And she got this interview at the local hospital and got a really good job for us to transition to Montana because one, it was a really good job. And two, we were instantly dipped into this group of people that it was for the local hospital, the Marcus Daly Hospital. And we were just all of a sudden, like, talking about ninja installations, we were installed in this group of people. And then once I got into that group of people, I just started being myself and talking and started, getting to know people, and then talking to Garrett at the same time. Because my thing with Garrett, and I've said this a few times, is the more I talk with Garrett, the more money I make. When I talk with Garrett, I make money. So I continue talking with Garrett.
by the way, great affirmation. By the way,
This is a
that one
wonderful
rolling.
quote. Like,
well, if you look at
there
the
it is.
data, it's true. It's true, because there was a period of time where we didn't talk, and the graph just went boop, and then we started talking again. And it went, boop. So there's that, and then the job, seriously though. But she got us into a group of people that I was allowed to just be myself again and get to know people really quickly. That was a big help. And then going back to Portland, I was flying and driving. I did that for probably about 6 to 9 months, which is not that much time when you think about it coming back here. So at about month 9, I felt like I didn't need to do it anymore, and was able just to stay here, and that's where it started.
We had a lot of conversation. I remember that time because you had somebody that was handling some of your business back there. We were trying to figure out a referral-based kind of setup that you could have somebody handle it. You give them a referral fee, or they would pay you a referral fee. And I remember you moved so darn fast when you made this transition. And I kept saying to you, like, if I see people do this successfully, like, we need more of a runway. We need more of a runway. And you're like, I think I've got somebody, we're good. And it was about 6 months after that, you're like, it's not good. Like that did not work the way I was thinking it was going to work. It's not working out. And we very quickly were like, you need to focus your time and your energy in Montana. Stop kind of bouncing back and forth here, trying to make that work. Like,
Pull the
go
Band-Aid
all
off.
in this area.
Yeah.
Go
Yeah.
all
It was
in.
probably, in retrospect, it was probably a really good thing. But that looking back on the positives of that bad relationship that had a short runway, it was ultimately a really good thing, because it forced me to really focus here. And when you focus on something, it'll expand and get bigger, and it'll happen. So ultimately, but at the time, it really was painful, because I spent a lot of time setting that up, and getting that person he actually went to an installation and did the education. And it was, so I thought it was like this perfect system, but didn't work out, and moved on, and here we are.
It's all good. You're all in up there in the place that you want to be right now. So it's perfect. So how did you build your database? That's one of because you're starting a brand new business. You're in this brand new area. And obviously, Debbie, who was worried about even having a job, lands a pretty good job. So you have that.
She's taken off.
Yeah, you were mentioning me. She was worried about maybe being a hairdresser, or and she was like, I'm not making this move. And she lands this amazing, financial position up there with Edward Jones, which is absolutely awesome. And so now we got to build you a database. And I remember pushing on you every call, going, I need you out talking to people. I need you building your database. Like, you've got to get out and do it. And you'd have months where you were really good at it, and then you'd have months where you're like, it's elk season. Like, this is just what it is.
Yep. Yeah. No. Yeah.
How did you do it?
Well, I think the habits that we learned from your dad and you and Larry are fantastic. Obviously, they are great. And like you guys talk about in your podcast, it's, the key element is consistency, is doing it as consistent as possible. And, I've got a lot of strengths, and one of my strengths is not diligently keeping notes like you've kept on who I talk to. So my 50 interviews, I get to the end of the week, and I look at my phone, I go, God, I've talked all week. That's all I do is talk. And I look at my list, and there was, I didn't have any, like 3 people on the list, and I have to go back and think about all the people I talked to. So I started, just per the Ninja 9, just started writing it down and keeping track of it. The other thing that helped me is that I really had to dive in. I really had to commit, and writing notes to people was kind of a big thing. That was the moment I learned about the power of notes, because there's a gentleman who's now in the real estate business here that was a window washer at the time, and he was the only guy I can get out to a house one time, and I kind of wrote him a note, said, thank you very much. It was really great you came out. I really did appreciate it, because I was struggling. And he always brings that up. He always said, oh my God, you're the guy that wrote me that note. It made a big impression on me. So I was like, oh, okay. So that was a thing that really cemented, 1, the activities, and 2, just keeping track of things, writing them down.
Well, I think people can beat themselves up over like, well, here I talked to all these people and I didn't take the notes on it. And I think that when looking at those types of systems, there's always ways you can make them better. You can make them stronger. You can make them more effective. And the mere fact that you had a list of 50 people that you had talked to, whether names or not, just that, and then you had to go back and rethink about those conversations, you were being intentional about all those conversations. And I think one of your gifts, Roger, is you are very, very, very real and genuine. You've always come across that way. You are the epitome of not salesy. You're not looking for, chasing down the next sale. You build amazing relationships with people, whether you're diligently taking notes or not. You are learning and growing with all these people. And I think it's been your superpower up there in Montana.
Thank you. That's really nice of you to say. But it was just, I like talking with people, like doing things like fishing. There was a group of guys that would like to fish. We would get in rafts and float down the river and talk. Soccer. I'd never heard of Kiwanis before. I got here through Debbie's job. There was the Kiwanis Club gets together and they kind of sponsor and kind of organize the youth soccer here in town. And so the guys from Kiwanis said, Roger, you don't have a choice. You're helping us run this. And before I know it, I'm out in the field with, 50 kids and, 100 parents. So that was a part of it too. So all the kind of stuff I did in my other place, it is brought here, and it fortunately it worked out with some work.
Did you do any marketing along with that? And a follow-up question to that, because a lot of people have a fear of like, well, if I go to a new market, people are going to know that I'm not experienced there, which is like, but you have experience. Like, you've been selling real estate for how many years? Like that's got to stand for something when you move there. So, in addition to all the networking and conversations that you had, how did you kind of help those people understand that you were there to help serve them in real estate if they needed it? And then how did it go when you were getting those first few pieces of business?
So, couple things. This is not a open house culture here. People hold open houses and nobody comes to them. Portland, even in Missoula, you have an open house and there'll be like 10 people that will come. It'll be like an actual open house. Nobody comes to open houses here. So I had to kind of pivot. And one thing that Garrett gave me, I don't know when it was, a long time ago, because it's still like an old Excel spreadsheet, is the months of inventory for different price ranges. And I just because I like data. I like presenting data and showing people the other side of real estate. Everybody thinks it's sort of this, somebody shows up in a Cadillac, opens the door, and they're just showing houses. And Garrett gave me the months of inventory for each price range. So I just started religiously filling that in every month for every little town, because it wasn't being displayed in the MLS. So I started carrying around this really cool graph, like, hey, you want to know about your price range, you want to know about market. And people would look at that and go, oh my God, I've never seen that before. So that was a really cool thing that wasn't sort of like a direct marketing thing, but when I was able to get in front of people and talk about it, I had this really powerful tool that differentiated me from other agents. And believe it or not, when I first got here, guys, there was no professional photography for listings. And I found a photographer in town. I said, hey, Flory, do you want to take some pictures of a house? I can't find anybody to take a picture of that, because everybody was doing that. Portland was, we were doing, the Matterport things and all that business. And you look at photos on the MLS here, and there's socks and, things, cats running in front of them. No one took their elk head down in the living room, and it's like pointing to your temple. And so I started doing, when I would get listings, I started having professional photography done, which was a differentiator as well. But marketing, Matt, it was just kind of just me. Debbie and I would have parties. We would get to, soccer and all those things. And her work at the hospital was a big thing too. A lot of social events where I was able just to, like Garrett said, just kind of be myself and talk.
Well, I think the months of inventory is a great example. A lot of people will say like, oh yeah, I can have conversations, but naturally in conversation, particularly meeting new people. Oh, so what do you do? Hey, you moved here. Like, what do you do for work? And obviously the real estate questions come up, but then you had this powerful thing when it's like, oh, and I got this thing here too. Like, because they'll probably say, how's the market? Well, let me show you like what this shows, which is really cool. I track this every month, which to me tells me several things. One, you know what you're doing. Two, you're diligent and you're responsible, right? Like just from doing that, because it's like, well, he has to do this every month. He's doing something different than other people do. And like, that's interesting to me, because if I did want to sell my house, like that's probably some information I'd want to know that you don't just go and find in a newspaper, right? Maybe average price you find, but none of that stuff.
I keep track of the delta between list price and sales price, and I put it all on a one sheet along with the inventory. And then before I left Portland, Keeping Current Matters was becoming a thing, and they came to our office and talked. And so they had these really cool graphic, months of inventory, appreciation, equity, all those sort of cool slides. So I remember I when I first got here, I'm thinking about this now. Bear with me for a second. I started using Evernote, and in Evernote you could put slides into a note, and then you can make a little presentation out of it, a really kind of a quick real estate review. And then Garrett introduced me to FHFA, and just serendipitously, Missoula started to become like the number one, number two, number three market in the United States for appreciation since when they started publishing the stuff in 1991. So that FHFA, KCM, and then my own little notes and graphs and data I was keeping on our micro market, I was able to present this stuff to people, and it gave me, street cred in a market, like you just said, Matt, a little while ago, that I didn't have any experience in, but I was able to do the analytics of it. And that wasn't happening here as much as it is now.
There's power in those numbers when you can sit down with somebody and show up in a marketplace that you're brand new in and be able to go like, oh, here's what's going on and here's what's happening. And that's what I found. The reason I created that Excel spreadsheet was for myself. It was when I was running my own business.
Oh, it's so
for real
cool.
estate.
Yeah.
And I was
so
just
cool.
trying to go like, how can I get a deep understanding of what's going on, see trends and see what's happening? And then as you were saying, you combine something like that. And I still give that out to people. I just gave it out to somebody here recently, and they're like, I'm doing this. And they're like, oh my gosh, I have the best conversations with my clients being able to show them these numbers. It still works today. But then again, Federal Housing Finance Agency, as you hear, anybody hears Roger saying FHFA, it's the Federal Housing Finance Agency, and it's specifically the house price
House price index. Yeah.
House price index. There you go. That's the form that he's talking about taking out of there to give them an understanding of that. But you did a great job of having that information. And I think what you also did a good job with, I think a lot of people just rely on their office to give it to them, or they allow for it to kind of, they wait for it to come in. And I've always told the people I coach, go out and get your own numbers, go out and do your own research, because then you are the ones that have pulled the data. And you're not the same as everybody else that has the same stuff right around you. And I think it did a great job with
I had a lot of time.
Street cred. They had time.
A lot of time. There was an 18-month period where I had, I wasn't that busy, so I was just kind of diving into this stuff. But marketing, Matt, to get back to your original question, it was more about just, I did, send out some postcards initially. I got a great picture of a moose in front of one of my signs from a client, and that was sort of like my first sort of like, everybody's like, oh wow, look at that moose. But it was mainly just doing the contact sport thing and just being ready for it to happen.
Well, and so, it takes you a couple of years, which probably seems like an eternity when you're in it, but now you're about to, go into your 10th year there in Montana, which is amazing, right? And so like, how's business today?
It's really good. Just like everywhere else, it's changing a bit. You guys have talked about on the podcast, all the sugar that it was injected into the market has subsided, and everybody's kind of getting back to whatever kind of a normal again, whatever that means. But people are still buying houses. We are, there's inventory is still low here, and we're still having appreciation. So for the seller side of things, it's still pretty powerful. For buyers, it's still really, really difficult. It's about a 6 to 8 month project to find something.
Well, and your person
in order to purchase,
right? Are you part of the top 10% luncheons or whatever the equivalent is of now there at your office?
No, it's quite the opposite. It's interesting how different franchisees practice, but there's nothing like that here.
I think an interesting place to come and look at this, Roger, is so I've gone back through more of my notes. And so when we started
those notes, Garrett,
they are mine, actually. I can't share them with you.
My diary.
It really
have a
privacy agreement with my client that I can't share these. Wait.
Yeah. So when we started in 2012, one of your goals was to make $200,000. That was a goal on your for you, again, sitting right around $4 million in volume. So going through this entire transition, December 1st, 2020, this is before all the sugarcoating of the marketplace. This is before everything took off with, kind of what we had gone through here, because the Montana really picked up after that. It was like kind of 2021, 2022 is when things kind of really blew up there. Really strong first quarter is the notes. You had $1 million in escrow at that moment in time. You hit your 200K in your new marketplace. Now, again, this is a handful of years afterwards of you fishing and elk hunting and me trying to get you to do all the right stuff and show up for all the right people. But this was a mile marker for me that you had rebuilt yourself in an entire new area. You took your family up to a brand new area, got all the stuff you were looking for, the lifestyle you were wanting. And here we now hit the goal that we had set for Portland back in 2012, 8 years before. And so I think,
Fist bump.
yeah, fist bump. There you go.
Thank you, Garrett.
I just wanted to acknowledge that, because again, you got the lifestyle you wanted. You hit a goal that you had, even though it was that was a Portland number down there, but you did it in Hamilton, Montana, and which is a whole different selling price range. Like, it's a different marketplace in general altogether. And I just wanted to say congratulations to you. And this was before really all the craziness went on. And yeah, you guys are definitely feeling the hangover a little bit from COVID. Because Boise, Idaho, there's a handful of areas that blew up during that time. And the marketplace is very, very, very different for you guys right now.
Yeah. Thank you, Garrett. Thank you for your help. And just like looking at this on a timeline. And I don't know if I would have the energy for it again. I think it was just, man, I must have really wanted to do it, because all those things you just mentioned seemed like a huge task and a huge endeavor. But yeah, no, it happened, and it was great. And thank you so much, because it was a challenging thing, but it's turned out to be really great. Yes, our market is completely different now. Average sales price when I first moved here, I mean, it's literally 10 times less than it is now. I mean, it's just, the market is just blown up. So when you do transactions in this market, the prices are a lot higher. So getting to those monetary goals is slightly easier, but when you want to do volume goals, it's, the challenge is still there. So,
well, I think, Roger, your story is a testament to, so many people focus on income first, right? And that's important, but you focused on lifestyle first, and then, well, what is the income that we need to bring that in? And you made it happen. And so a lot of people get fearful about, hey, I can't make a move, I can't do a change because I won't have the money. And if you focus on the life that you want to have, the money is going to come. And not only that, you're doing better than you were in Portland. Now, arguably, you probably would have built the same successful business there too, but now you get to do it while hunting and fishing and loving every day.
I don't know. He would have gone to bed every night going, I know what's across the street from my kid's school, and I'm stressed out, and it may have torn him down. He may not have taken off.
Right? Well, it just shows too, like, the people focus on these. I love big goals, right? I love big goals. And it's like, but if you focus on a big financial goal without any context behind it, lifestyle, kids, spouses, then it's really hard to have the motivation to go after it and to show up for the systems to make it successful. And that's what you did, Roger. You showed up, you made it, you're like, hey, I'm going to make this transition. We're going to make it with this work. And the cool thing is you look 10 years down now that you've been there, and it's like, how quick has that gone by for you? Like, I bet 2014 rolling down the road feels like yesterday.
Yeah. It was like instantaneous. There's a lot that's happened obviously in between, but it's gone by really fast. But, it wasn't just, it didn't happen in a vacuum. It needed help. I needed help from Garrett. And I needed help from my wife. Actually, she's the one that did all the penciling out of all the numbers and how to make it work. And so, it wasn't just me for sure. It was a team effort.
Well, I think someday, Roger, we got to get our wives together because I think we run our households very, very, very similar in a lot of ways. We've only met one time, I think, face to face, and it was in the Portland airport when I was traveling through. You came and met me for dinner one night, and so we got to fix that moving forward too. I think I need to come up to Montana.
I think it's about time you
It's
came back to Montana, Garrett.
been too long. Well, Roger, I want to say, and I just want to, and we could probably wrap this up here, but I want to say thank you so much for letting me. I know it's weird. It might be weird that I have so much documented on your life in the notes that I have of the years that we've coached. But it's really special to me that I have all these notes of this journey that I've been on with you. And it's kind of the way I look at my coaching relationships as I get to go on this amazing journey with you guys. And I want to say thank you to you for letting me be part of your journey. So I can't tell you how much I appreciate you, man.
I find it amazing that you still have those notes. I think that's a tribute to your craft and what you do. And you are, and will always be locked into our family just because you were such a big help to get my business to this point and help us transition. And you were inspiring too, Garrett, because you guys I remember having coaching calls with you. I think it was in Costa Rica. You guys would just pick up and just go places and make it work. So, just, it's amazing what you can do when you put your mind to it.
I try not to let everybody know I was in Costa Rica. A lot of people would be like, what is that sound behind you? I'm like, oh yeah, that's that's a certain bird that we don't have in California.
Oh no, it was really cool. That's
well, Roger, thank you. Matt, do you have any last questions before we part?
No, Roger, thank you so much. Well, I'll ask you this question. One, if people want to connect with you, where can they find you? And two, if you had to give somebody a piece of advice, an agent who is facing a decision about a change, whether it's a location or just something that there might be holding back on because, well, just because my business is this, right? What would be that piece of advice you'd give them?
Make a list of what you want. And if the wants outweigh where you are right now, then go after it. Because as in this business, you have the ability to change places, change localities, change geography, and the tools transmit to the new place. So like that list of fears that I had with Garrett, they just got washed away because it's easy. It's with our business. It's easy it's easier to transition because it's your business and it's you creating it. You don't have to wait for somebody to tell you to do it. So, I'd say go for it.
I love that. And where can people find you if they want to connect?
Instagram, Roger Gantz Realty on Instagram, and rogergantzrealty.com.
A lot of fishing pictures, by the way. Just be aware. Lots of fishing pictures.
It's awesome.
And I invite you guys to come and visit. The raft is in the boat barn waiting to take you guys down the Bitterroot River.
Oh, wonderful. Gosh. Well, thank you, Roger, for being on and sharing this journey and your story. I appreciate that, Garrett. Thank you for setting this up as well. And for coaching Roger so well that we could actually have this conversation. So
one other thing, thanks for the podcast, guys. I listen to them all the time, and they are just little bits of inspiration and info that come at really good times. So thank you for doing those. I know it takes a lot of work to do that sort of stuff, but you guys have knocked it out of the park, and keep them coming. They're great.
Well,
thanks, man.
We appreciate that, man. I'll use that as a way to say, if you're listening to this and you're not subscribed to the podcast, definitely subscribe. If you're watching it on YouTube, hit the subscribe button and the little bell so you can be notified of new releases as they come up. And if you guys want to have an experience like Roger, that's what Garrett and I do. And we even have a group coaching program. So if it's like, hey, I don't know if I really want Garrett kicking my butt every single day, although as Roger says, when he talks to Garrett, he makes money. We have an incredible group called the 11 Circle that you can join. And we even have some little extras from the podcast. If you just want to kind of get a little base membership, just go check out lifeat10tenths.com to see what that's all about so that we can help you guys thrive, because that's what we love doing. We love hearing stories like Roger's. And if you're listening and you're like, can I have a story like Roger's? Of course you can. And we would love to help you craft that or be along that journey with you. So check us out there. Roger, again, thank you so much for joining us. Garrett, thank you too as well, man.
More than welcome. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Roger.
Thanks, gentlemen. Thanks, Garrett.